بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم يا أيها الناس كلوا مما في الأرض حلالا طيبا ولا تتبعوا خطوات الشيطان إنه لكم عدو مبين إنما يأمركم بالسوء والفحشاء وأن تقولوا على الله ما لا تعلمون وإذا قيل له اتبعوا ما أنزل الله قالوا بل نتبع ما ألفينا عليه آباءنا أولو كان آباؤهم لا يعقلون شيئا ولا يهتدون ومثل الذين كفروا كمثل الذي ينعق بما لا يسمع إلا دعاء ونداء صم بكم عمي فهم لا يعقلون. Respectful honorable friends, the verses that I've recited to you are the first verses of a new ruku. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the previous ruku had made mention of a few of His qudrats, His powers, and then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had made mention towards the end the condition of the kuffar on the day of resurrection. Further, in this ruku, from amongst the things that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes mention is with regards those things that He has made halal and what He has made haram, with regards food. The reason why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has revealed the first few verses, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala first says, Ya ayyuhan nas kulu mimma fil ardi halalan tayyiba, that Ya ayyuhan nas, O people, kulu mimma fil ardi, eat from that of the earth, halalan tayyiba, which is halal and pure. وَلَا تَتَّبِعُوا خُطُوَاتِ الشَّيْطَانِ, and do not follow the footsteps of shaitan. إِنَّهُ لَكُمْ عَدُوٌ مُبِينٌ, indeed he is for you an open enemy. إِنَّمَا يَأْمُرْكُمْ بِالسُّوءِ وَالْفَحْشَاءِ وَأَن تَقُولُوا عَلَى اللَّهِ مَا لَا تَعْلَمُونَ, indeed he commands you with evil and immorality, وَأَن تَقُولُوا عَلَى اللَّهِ مَا لَا تَعْلَمُونَ, and that you say upon Allah that which you do not know. The mushrikeen of Mecca, who used to worship in idols, would on various different occasions sacrifice various animals for the sake of these idols. They would sacrifice it on different occasions. They would sacrifice different animals for different needs, and they would sacrifice them on the name of people or on the name of idols. Once they would do this, then they would regard the meat to be sacred so that nobody would consume it. So after they would make the sacrifice, or if they purchased and freed an animal under the name of an idol or so, then that animal would roam about where nobody would utilize it for meat purposes, and it would be just left alone, and people would regard it to be very sacred. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in this verse mentions that those same very animals that they have made haram are in actual fact halal. The animal itself, that just because they have now sacrificed it or ascribed it to an idol, the meat of it itself, the animal itself would have been halal for them to eat. But now by means of this type of actions of theirs, they have made haram that which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made halal. In the verses that come after these verses, which we will be doing next week inshallah, in those verses Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions for the believers what He has made halal and what He has made haram. That's why in those verses Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will say that Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu, O you who believe, kulu min tayyibati ma razaqnakum, eat from those pure things that Allah has given. And then there will be made mention of those things which are halal and which are haram. In that verse Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu, for the believers. Here He says openly that Ya ayyuhan nas, O people. So in it both the believers and the non-believers are included in it. Kulu mimma fil ardi, eat mimma fil ard, that which is from the earth, halalan tayyiba, which is halal, and not only halal but tayyiban, pure. In this injunction Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is mentioning to all of mankind that eat from whatever there is on the earth, be it in the form of vegetation or be it in the form of meat, that mankind should eat from it, but eat what? That which is halal. The word halal in Arabic actually means to open a knot. The actual literal meaning of halal is to open a knot. And you'll find this is the case when a knot is open, it has been opened up and there's freedom there. Otherwise, if there's a knot, something is tied. So when the knot is loosened, there is freedom there. So halal means where the knot has been loosened and there is freedom for mankind in it, for believers in it, meaning that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made it halal for us. So there is no limitations, there is no boundaries, it is open for us, we have the freedom in utilizing. Whatever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made halal should be kept halal. The mushrikeen, what they were doing is they were making haram that which was halal. So that which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made halal should always remain halal, we shouldn't make that haram. And obviously yes, that which is haram should be kept haram, not that we make haram into halal, which we have done. Halal in its place, we have made haram also halal for us. So the mushrikeen had made halal into haram. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, look, whatever He has made halal for you, benefit from it, utilize it, and do not abstain from it, do not make it haram upon you. And also He mentions the word tayyiban, that halal and tayyib and pure, which also indicates to us that all the animals that are halal are pure. That's why we have the system of sacrificing, where the animal is slaughtered and all the blood is drained out from it, because the blood is najis and the blood can have in it so many different diseases, etc. in it. All that is let out, and then whatever is not good for a person, that is also taken out from the animal, and only that part of the animal which is beneficial for a person that we consume. So not only is it halal, but it is also tayyib, it is good, it is beneficial for a person. That's why you will find Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has only made those animals halal, the eating of which is beneficial for us. As I mentioned 2 weeks ago in the Jummah Bayan, wherein we always hear the saying that you are what you eat. You are what you eat. And it is true. And if you want to know more about it, inshallah, there will be a very good article in next month's At-Tarbiyah, if Allah wills, which I mentioned then. It was supposed to be in this month At-Tarbiyah, but another subject took its place. So it has been substituted for next month. And the topic is, why is pork haram? Why Muslims do not eat pork? And in it is mentioned the characteristics of a swine and why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made it haram for us. And when a person reads about the animal itself, its habits and its characteristics, and then if we compare it with people around us, we will find those people who consume this animal will find a lot of similarities between the two. So it is true that you are what you eat. So therefore you find that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made halal for those type of animals that they themselves are also pure. Their habits are pure habits. That's why animals, as in cattle, cows, goats, sheep, lambs, these things which are halal, they don't eat meat either. They just graze on the grass and and hay and these type of things that are there on it, for it, which are also beneficial for the milk that it produces, and it is also beneficial for the meat that it produces. And how is it? It is amazing that the cow which we benefit from meat-wise is a vegetarian. The cow itself is a vegetarian, but one who eats it isn't a vegetarian. It is just like the bee also. The bee on its own is such a poisonous insect, but from the stomach of the bee, such beautiful delicacy as honey is produced. Wherein the insect itself is poisonous, but from its belly is created the most delicious of delicacies, that delicacy in which there is shifa also, which is so pure, which doesn't need to get refined or go through any other processing either. Naturally it is so pure, and that is honey. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made halal for us those animals that themselves eat halal good things, not eat impurity, and their habits are also decent habits for an animal anyway. So it is true that a person is what he eats. That's why Hakim Luqman has mentioned that he has learned many things from different prophets that he's been in the company of. One of the things that he has learned from the practices is that they always stressed that a person should be cautious with regard what goes down the throat. What goes down the throat is of two types. One is obviously with regards physical health, whether whatever person eats is beneficial for a person physically or not. And the other is also whether it is halal or not. Because whatever a person eats, it has an effect on a person. The food that a person eats, it is broken up. Part of it becomes energy, blood, protein, fat, whatever. It is all utilized. And when it is utilized, dear friends, it doesn't remain in the form that it went in, but it changes the form, and now the same food is there circulating within us. It becomes part of our body. The food isn't stored separately, but it has now become part of us. So whatever a person eats, the effects of it is going to be in a person's body. As we find when a person is ill, the doctor will mention, abstain from these type of foods, eat more of these foods. Why? Because that's the effect it has on us. It becomes part of our system. More of something can be detrimental, less of something can be detrimental. So this way, we are told to watch what we eat. In the same way, dear friends, the food that goes down a person's stomach, his throat and into the stomach, if that food is halal, then that also has a spiritual effect on the heart and the body. If it is haram, that also has an effect on a person's body. That's why Allah Ta'ala says, halal and tayyiba, that if you want pure food, then pure food will be in that which has been made halal. And the effects of it are also tayyiban, pure. So halal, the effects of halal is tayyiban, it is pure. Now I'll just mention to you a couple of short incidents which with regards halal food, the effects of halal food, the effects that halal food has on a person spiritually. One incident is of a person by the name of Shah Abdullah. This Shah Abdullah used to live in Deoband, and he was a poor person, simple person. His work was that every day in the morning he would go into the jungle and he would just cut some grass and cut some wood, and he would sell that to people who would need it for burning the fire, etc. as fuel. He would have one basket that he used to sell the stuff in. His ritual was that every morning he would go into the jungle, cut the grass and fill the basket, and then when he would come into Deoband, he would sell that for 4 annas. 4 annas in those days were probably 4 pence, or say 4 pounds for example. Let's say 4 pounds. He would sell it for 4 pounds, and that also probably is more. So he would sell it for 4 annas, and that's all. He wouldn't go back for more. The people knew that what time he would come, and his policy was that whoever is first in the line and the first person to put his hand on the basket is given to him, he takes his 4 annas and he goes home. Irrelevant of how long the queue was. If it was us, he would say, hang on, I'll be back, and we'll make sure that we fulfill the demands of the queue that is there. But he would find that in the 4 annas, that was sufficient for him. So the first person who purchased it from him, that was enough for him. So he didn't have a busy schedule, he didn't have to work overtime, but just a few hours in the morning and he did his job. and he went home. With the 4 annas, he distributed it. How? 1 anna he should keep for himself, the other 1 he should give to the poor, the 3rd anna he should give to his daughter, and the 4th anna he used to keep and collect in order to invite the ulama of Deoband. He had this habit of every now and then when he would accumulate some money, he would invite the ulama of Darul Uloom Deoband. So from the 4 annas, dear friend, 1 anna used to be sufficient for his needs, so he should keep that for him. The other 1 anna he should give to the poor. So a poor person here, dear friends, is helping the poor. And the 3rd he would give it to his daughter. In this way he's maintaining ties with his family members and he's also supporting his family. And the other anna, which was extra, according to him it was extra, with this he would invite and give an invitation to the ulama. There were times when he would himself cook the meal and present it to them. And if he couldn't, he would just give them the money, that here's the money that I've saved over the amount of days, just buy what you want and prepare the meal. So what he would do is, he would give it to these ulama, great ulama, the likes of Mawlana Qasim Nanotwi, Mawlana Yaqub Nanotwi, Mawlana Rashid Ahmad Ghangawi, who were great personalities and great scholars of their time. So he would give them the money, and what they would do is that Mawlana Yaqub Nanotwi Rahmatullah alayhi, he was one of those jack of all trades. He was good at many different things, and he was also good at cooking. So they would just give it to him that you go into the market, get the food, and you cook it. Mawlana Yaqub Nanotwi Rahmatullah alayhi, he would actually make ghusl. After making ghusl, he would go into the market, buy whatever he would need from that amount of money. And obviously it wasn't so much that it would be so lavish. And then he would prepare the meals. The other ulama, knowing that the meals are ready, they would also take a ghusl and they would come and partake of the meal. Dear friends, these personalities were great ulama of their time. Teachers of hadith and fiqh, great books, great scholars have learned from them. They were great walis of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala also. But they themselves mentioned that the effects of that one meal that they used to have an effect on them for entire month. They would say that after that meal, the ibadat would increase, the dhikr would increase, the nur in the heart would also increase, and the efforts of the teaching that they would do will also increase, and for one entire month they would be able to feel the blessings of the food that they would partake of this Shah Abdullah. Why? Because his earnings were halal, the food was so halal in it, dear friends, and the manner in which he used to accumulate it, they would say the effects, and these are great people, personalities themselves, dear friends, and they are saying that they would wait when the dawat would come so that it would boost themselves spiritually. That's the effect it would have on them. Another incident, dear friends, many years ago, there was a person by the name of Amir Dost Khan, and he was the governor of Afghanistan, of Kabul. During his reign, a foreign country had invaded Afghanistan. So as being the leader, it was his duty that he would appoint somebody, an army, that would go and fight and defend the country. So he had appointed his own son to be the Amir of the army, and he sent him off that he should now go and defend the country and make sure that the enemy retreat and leave the country. After some time, news reached him that his son had been defeated and he was now returning as a defeated person. This news reached him and it obviously disturbed him greatly. He came home and he mentioned this to his wife. And when he mentioned it to his wife, he was annoyed to the fact that his son was a coward, and to the fact that he had appointed his own son to be the Amir. Now he is defeated, what will the people say? So he came complaining to his wife that what type of a coward of a son we have. I had high hopes in him and he's now been defeated and he's returning as a defeated person. So he kept on complaining. His wife said to him, look, there is no way at all that your son has been defeated. There's no way at all that your son has been defeated. So he said to her, how do you know? I've got my intelligence out there who have come and reported to me that your son is defeated and is coming back in this way, and you're sitting in these four corners of the room, four walls of the room, and you're telling me he isn't defeated. I've got intelligence there and they telling me and you telling me here that he isn't defeated. How can it be? In this way anyhow he left and he went out. Not long after that, news reached him that his son was actually victorious and he was returning victorious. He had defeated the enemy and the enemy had left the country. So when he heard this news, he quickly came to his wife and asked her that, yes, what I did tell you was incorrect. The truth was that he is victorious, but how did you know that he wasn't defeated? She said to him, well, I was not going to mention it to you, but since you asked, I shall mention it to you. And she said, when you said that he is a coward of a son and he is defeated, I knew that it can't be at all. Because in the hadith it is mentioned that one of the benefits and effects of halal rozi is that it creates braveness in a person and it removes cowardness. And when I was expecting this child, my habit was that never mind haram food, I would make sure that not even a morsel of doubtful food should go into my stomach. When she was carrying the child, she says, I made sure that never mind haram, even doubtful morsel shouldn't go down my throat. And once I gave birth to him, I made sure that every time I ate only halal. She said I would make wuzu and whilst reading Surah Yasin, I would give him his milk to drink. So on this alone I knew that my son cannot be a coward. So this is the effect. The mother herself had so much hope that the son won't be a coward because she knew that she had fed the child halal rozi, due to which the effects will be good in the child. This is a lesson for all parents also, who give the children freedom to go to the shops and just buy whatever they want. The sweets are haram, the chocolates are haram. They just go and buy whatever food they want to, things they want to, which is haram. We don't have the slightest care with regards what they're eating, whether it is halal or haram or not. We go to the supermarkets also, we find something appealing, we just take it without reading the ingredients, whether finding out whether it is halal to eat or not. One final incident with regards halal and haram, because we need to move on still. That is with regards Imam Ahmad bin Hanbal rahimahullah. Imam Ahmad bin Hanbal rahimahullah, we know, is a great imam of his time, one of the four great imams. He was the student of Imam Shafi rahimahullah, who is also one of the great imams. Imam Shafi rahimahullah invited Imam Ahmad bin Hanbal, who had then left and was living in Egypt. So he once invited him that it's been long that we haven't met, so come over. So obviously, with the invitation of his ustad, his teacher, he immediately made preparations and he left a message that on so-and-so date he'll be coming to see Imam Shafi. On the day that he was to arrive, Imam Shafi rahimahullah mentioned to the people around him and his students and them that a great imam and a great scholar is arriving, so we should all go out to welcome him. Because Imam Shafi had good ties with the ruler of the time, even the king came out with all his men. So a whole group of people went out in order to welcome Imam Ahmad bin Hanbal. Once they welcomed him, Imam Shafi rahimahullah took him to his house, and the women folk in the house prepared for his meals. When the time for food came, they found that when people were eating, everybody ate to their full. But then Imam Ahmad bin Hanbal rahimahullah kept on eating. He didn't stop eating, he just kept on eating away. The people around him started looking at each other, because in their minds they too knew that, well, if this is a pious person and he's a saintly person, a great scholar, then obviously saints and pious people eat very little. We know that we always hear that they eat little, but here we finish and he's still filling himself up. Something wrong here with, how can he be such a pious person when he's still eating and he was eating, filling himself up. Anyhow, they left it and they just said, well, Imam Shafi said he's a pious person, so let's believe it and that's it. Then, when it was time for night time, the daughters of Imam Shafi rahimahullah, in the room where Imam Ahmad bin Hanbal was to sleep in, prepared some water for his wuzu for tahajjud salah. In those days, people were accustomed to performing tahajjud salah. So they kept some water there for him, some stuff for his istinja, etc. They left a miswak there and they left a musalla there also. So in the morning when he wakes up, he can just, everything is there for him. He doesn't have to go out looking for things. So they left it there prepared for him. Imam Ahmad bin Hanbal rahimahullah went to his room. The next morning when he went for Fajr Salah, The daughters quickly went into the room, obviously take the stuffs and throw it away, etc., clean up there. When they went there, they found that the water that they left for wuzu wasn't utilized, neither was the miswak utilized, neither was the musalla utilized, nothing was utilized at all. So they thought that, well, maybe because he ate so much at night, his eyes didn't wake up, his eyes didn't open for tahajjud, not for fajr. That is impossible, for tahajjud. So maybe because he ate so much, his eyes didn't open for tahajjud salah. So they thought maybe that's why he overslept. But then also it didn't make sense to them that such a pious, great person and he didn't wake up for tahajjud salah. So eventually they complained and they mentioned this to Imam Shafi. So Imam Shafi rahimahullah then summoned and called Imam Ahmad bin Hanbal and asked him that, look, you were not like this before. What has happened? Have you changed since you went to Egypt, or what? Has your condition changed? The people are questioning you with regards to the meals that you ate and the night story and that. Imam Ahmad bin Hanbal rahimahullah mentioned that, oh my Ustad, with regards to the meal, he says the time when you entered me into the room where the meals were, I could feel that the whole room was filled with the nur of the food that was there. From the heavens I could actually see the nur that was descending on the food, due to which I made sure that irrelevant of what other people say, I'll eat as much as I can because I know I won't get this type of halal food anywhere else at all. So he said I ate as much as I could in order to fill myself up with the nur that was there, emulating from the food that was there. Then he says that with regards to the night, he says although I had traveled during the day and I was very tired, but the blessings of the food at night was such that when I laid down to sleep, I didn't sleep at all, and during the night I made conclusion of over 100 masail which previously I could not come to a conclusion of. These people, dear friends, were great imams who were mujtahideen of their time. And he says that he deduced over 100 masail. He said the answers were just coming into my mind, and the whole night I just spent in this manner, so the wuzu for Isha was sufficient for the wuzu of Fajr, due to which there was no need for me to utilize the water and the things that was kept there for him to make wuzu. And this, he says, was a barakat of the food that he had during the night. So dear friends, this shows us that halal and tayyiba, whatever halal we take in, it has an effect on a person's body, it has an effect on a person spiritually. Therefore, dear friends, it is very, very important that whatever we eat is halal. And hopefully, when we do the verses with regards to those things that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made haram, mention will be made with regards food that is also haram and the effects that has on a person. Further, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَلَا تَتَّبِعُوا خُطُوَاتِ الشَّيْطَانِ. Do not follow the footsteps of shaitan. إِنَّهُ لَكُمْ عَدُوٌ مُبِينٌ. Indeed, he is for you an open enemy. He is open. There is no secret about him at all. He doesn't come two-faced. He doesn't come in any disguise at all. We all know he is adu mubin. It is clearly mentioned to us in the Quran and Hadith that shaitan is our enemy. Why should we abstain from him? إِنَّمَا يَأْمُرُكُمْ بِالسُّوءِ. Indeed, he commands you بِالسُّوءِ, with evil, وَالْفَحْشَاءِ, and immorality. وَأَن تَقُولَ عَلَى اللَّهِ مَا لَا تَعْلَمُونَ, and that you say upon Allah that which you do not know, ascribing partners to him, and various other things in rejecting Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that don't follow the footsteps of shaitan. Never mind shaitan himself. Don't even follow the footsteps of shaitan, because those are just as detrimental as following shaitan himself. Why? Because he is adu mubin. He is such an enemy that is open and clear that shaitan is our enemy. إِنَّمَا يَأْمُرُكُمْ بِالسُّوءِ وَالْفَحْشَاءِ. He commands one with evil and immorality. In another hadith, Nabi Karim sallallahu alayhi wa sallam mentions that each person has an angel, a farishta, an angel, and shaitan with him. The angel inspires a person towards doing good, and the shaitan inspires a person towards doing evil. Now, how does shaitan work? Shaitan, dear friends, doesn't come to us and physically put us into the state of sinning. This isn't the work of shaitan. Neither do you find if a person doesn't perform his salah, the shaitan comes and shackles him up, that he can't go to the masjid or he can't perform salah. This is not what shaitan does. He doesn't do this. Neither does he stand by the door of the masjid that if you enter in there, I'll blow your brains out. This is not also what shaitan does. Shaitan doesn't do anything of this sort at all. Shaitan doesn't hold a person's hands and take him and then forcefully enters him into the nightclubs. Shaitan doesn't take a syringe and then dope a person. See, shaitan doesn't do any of these type of things. Because if he did, then on the day of Qiyamah, we would just say, Ya Allah, I had no power, he's the one who forcefully did all these to me. So nobody would have to account for anything then. So therefore, this isn't the work of shaitan. Shaitan works like a fox. All that shaitan does, dear friends, is that shaitan whispers to a person. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us all a nafs, the lowly self, the nafs. The nafs which is naturally inclined towards evil. Only after great effort and sacrifice that the nafs then come into a person's control, and now that nafs changes from being a wretched and evil nafs to a pious and good nafs. But initially the nafs, the soul of each person is evil, nafsul ammara, and this nafsul ammara is inclined towards doing evil. Now shaitan, as I mentioned previously in the past also, that shaitan is a very busy person. He's a businessman. He's very, very busy. Because after all, he has a lot of people to mislead. So he can't stay with one person the whole time. Because if he does that, then what about all the others there? So he can't stay with me the whole time because he's got 1, 2, 3, so many of everybody else also. He's got the whole of mankind, humanity, to mislead. So shaitan is very, very busy. So what he does is he appoints the nafs to be his agent. So the nafs is his agent. And what the shaitan does, dear friends, is he just creates a thought in a person's mind. The thought of evil. The thought of evil. And the thought that he creates in the heart isn't evil, that we think of it evil, but of a pleasurable thought. Because sin, dear friends, as I mentioned on Wednesday also, sins is something which is pleasurable, isn't it? Because if sins were something which had no desire or no pleasure in it, everybody would abstain from sin. But what happens is that shaitan beautifies it in such a manner that every person becomes inclined towards it. So he just comes and he places a slight thought into the person's mind. Now dear friends, as long as the thought remains just a thought, a person won't be accountable for it at all. He won't be questioned with regards to it at all, but that is as long as the thought enters into the mind and a person then removes it from the mind and he doesn't carry it out. So the remedy is that whenever a person thinks something evil enters into his heart, that he should do this act. The remedy for that is immediately occupy yourself in something opposite to that, into something good. Because whilst you're doing good, you can't be doing bad. Whilst you're doing bad, you can't be doing good. So if you immediately start occupying yourself in something good, then your mind will go off it. Otherwise, if you remain unoccupied, as the saying says also, an idle mind is the devil's workshop, which is true, because that's when shaitan now plays on a person's mind. Shaitan comes and gives the waswasa, the whisper into the heart, and then what happens is that the person himself, by means of the nafs now starts pressurizing the person. And now that thought, dear friends, starts coming into planning, and from planning then it comes into action, by which then a person commits the evil. At the end of the evil, you find that it wasn't shaitan who made him do it at all. Shaitan just came, placed something in his ears, went to next person, and he moved on. But it is a person himself who then brings the thought up again. He thinks of it more and more. The thought becomes something pleasurable to him, that he is going to attain some pleasure out of doing the act that shaitan whispers into him. Then he starts making the preparations for it, the planning of it, the scheming of it, and then eventually what happens is he goes and he does it. So for example, shaitan might just come and put into a person's mind, it's Friday night. That's all he'll do, and then he's gone to the next person. That's all, he just mentioned Friday night in a person's mind. Now that thought, a person thinks of it, oh yes, it's not like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, it's Friday night. So that thought increases more. And then thinking it's Friday night, he thinks, well, I've got the car also, the parents are out or something, the car is also there, so I've got the wheels also, come on, let me phone a few mates also. So then what he does is he phones a few mates, here, there, you ready, okay, we're going out tonight. Then what happens is he goes in the bathroom and he'll prepare himself for Friday night. Then he gets into the car, he'll go and on his rounds, he'll pick up this maid, that maid, that maid. Now they all get together in the car, and so it's boarding in the car, they're sitting there, that, so okay then, let's disturb the entire neighborhood also, isn't it? So then you find the music there, banging on there, disturbing everybody, the eardrums and everything that are also blasting away. And in this way the music is on and they're going out, and then they go out. Now they say, well, we can't just drive about, there's no point going out about, obviously we want something, we have to go get it, isn't it? So then they decide, okay, we're going to this place rocks, that place is a bit boring, so let's go where it rocks. And then they go there, and then eventually they go wherever the place is, they're inside there. Once inside there also, dear friends, then you find that, well, we are there, we have to fit in with the people, everybody else boozing and having this and that. So obviously you can't just be there with your juice and your coke and that. So you also go and then order a bit of this and that here and there, and you also drinking away there. Whilst you're drinking away there also, then some other guys come and ask you, do you want some of this? You want some of that? Try this, try that. Then you say, okay, well, everybody else is also trying it, so why not we also try it? You also try a bit of it here and there. You tell your mate, he also tries it. And then a person is totally drugged and zombified and intoxicated. And in that then he meets with people, and what type of evil a person does. The list can go on. You all know what carries on. All this, dear friends, started off from what? Shaitan didn't come and grab the guy, phone your friends, or I'll do this to you, get in the car, get to the club, do this, do that, steal, commit this crime, do this murder, that, etc. Shaitan didn't force anybody to do this at all. But he just came and placed the thought in a person, it's Friday night. Just that thought itself led on to so many evil. Whereas if that time, that person thought to himself, Friday night, yes Shaitan, you tell me Friday night? So yes, I'll tell you also Friday night is Quran Tafseer. So I'm calling my mates, and we're going for the Quran Tafseer, and you're in the Quran Tafseer. So the more later it becomes, the better also, isn't it? So by the time we finish the Quran Tafseer, we're so tired now, and hungry and whatever, so what's the point to go straight home, and that's, we go to sleep, and mashallah, we have abstained from so much evil, isn't it? But unfortunately, we don't think that we do it. It's because the only way of combating shaitan is if we then combat it in thought also. It tells us to do evil, we think of doing something good instead. In this way what happens is, our time is also utilized, whereas if he just sits there saying, no, that's it, I'm not going, but he just sits there, he's not doing anything at all, then it will increase more in his mind, and the idle mind that becomes the entire workshop, everything planned and everything is there in his mind. So until the thought just enters the mind, a person doesn't do anything at all, that person, it won't be sinful at all. But it is when a person goes and actually does it, that he becomes sinful. There was once with regards how the sin just starts off from a thought, dear friends. On one occasion there was a person during the time of the Banu Israel, and he was regarded to be a very pious person, and he used to have his zawiyah, his khanqa also, and he was very well known amongst the people to be the most pious person in the locality, and he had many disciples also. From amongst his disciples was two brothers whose parents had passed away. It was just the two of them, and they had an unmarried sister with them, just the three of them. They had no parents and no other relatives. So they would frequently come to him, as he was their guru also. Then on one occasion it so happened that they, due to some emergency or necessity, they needed to go for some work and they had to travel. In those days, obviously, it used to take long to travel from one place to the other place. It wasn't like us that in a matter of hours you're in one part of the world and hours again you're back from that part of the world. So they had to go for many days. But at the same time, they had to leave their sister behind. And there was no one that would keep this daughter, because obviously they had no relatives or parents, so they didn't know what they should do. So they said, well, the only person that we can leave her with is the Shaykh himself, the Guru himself, this pious person, because he's so pious after all, and he knows her, so why not just leave her by him? So they came up and made a proposal to him that can we leave her by you? Now initially obviously his piety spoke and he said no, it will be inconvenient, no, and he refused. However, they continued to request, and he agreed, said okay, fair enough, leave her here. And then he allocated a room for her in the building, that look, you stay there, that is your room, and he kept her there. When it would be time for food, he would tell somebody to go and give her the food and take the plates away from her once she had finished. So in this way she stayed there for a few days, the food was given to her and she was away in the room. Eventually on one day, when Shaitan was doing his rounds, he found on his list this particular pious person on his list. So he came to this pious person and mentioned, just put in his mind that look, why don't you now and then just go and give her the food also, instead of sending somebody else, because after the brothers appointed you to look after her and trusting you, they left her behind by you. So instead of sending somebody else to go give her the food, why don't you now and then just go and just give the food, just knock on the door and give her the food? This thought entered into his mind. So he said, okay, fair enough, why not? So he started off by taking the food. He would knock on the door, just give her the food from outside the door, and then she would just give it back to him and he would take the food from outside. So this is the first step that he undertook. And then after a while the thought reached him that look, she lives there on her own and I'm looking after her, so it's not appropriate that I just take the food, leave the food, etc. without talking to her. So I should at least just make salam to her at least. Salam, and how are you? Are you okay today? Had a nice day? How's things? So let me just make a bit of conversation with her. So now when he would go to see her, he would just speak to her from outside that how are you doing, and want to a small chit chat. After that, what happened is the thought entered into his mind that look, it's not appropriate that I just speak to her slightly and then I just take the food from outside and I don't go see her, etc. So I should at least just go inside the room and just leave the food for her inside the room. So then what he started doing is, he started leaving the food for her inside the room. And then he thought to himself, well, if I am in the room, then I should at least just sit there a little, give her a little bit of company. She's on her own, she's got nobody with her, so give her a bit of company, make her feel at ease, etc. So then what would happen is, he would sit there, and he said to himself, only a few minutes. I won't sit for long, just a couple of minutes. So he would just sit there for a couple of minutes. Eventually, what happened is, the minutes kept on increasing, by which then obviously, when one male is on his own with another female, then we know who the third person is. So eventually, dear friends, a connection between him and this girl started, due to which eventually they ended up committing haram, they ended up committing zina, by which she also conceived and she gave birth to a child. Now this person, her brothers were still on their travels. Now he wondered to himself that what will I do now? So he said to her, look, don't tell anybody about it, keep quiet about it, don't tell your brothers and everything, but obviously now she gave birth to a child, so how she's going to hide that also? So thinking that what can he do, then he thought, well, the only thing I can do is hide the evidence. So he took the child and he murdered the child and he killed the child. Now after killing the child, he thought to himself, well, if he knows that I've done this to her child, I've killed the child itself, then obviously when the brothers come, she is definitely going to tell them what has happened. So what do I do now? So then he decided the only solution is I kill her also. So there's been no evidence at all, so let me kill her also. So he killed her also, dug up a grave, and he buried her and the child in the grave. Then he thought to himself, when the brothers come, I'll mention to them that she passed away, it's normal. So when the brothers and them came back and they asked to see their sister, he said to them, well, what had happened is she wasn't well, so he lied now, due to which she died and she passed away. So the brothers said, well, okay, life and death is Allah's hands, so probably she did pass away, and upset as well, they went away. However, Shaitan hadn't had enough from this person. He wanted to really disgrace him, because he had already destroyed his hereafter by making him commit such great sins. But he wanted to disgrace him with regards to the world also, because people still knew him as being such a pious person. So what he did is, Shaitan then came into the sleep, the dream of the brothers. So a person has a dream, sometimes you have just a thought dream, sometimes it is some signs from Allah, and sometimes the dream is just a dream, a shaitani dream. So shaitan came into the dream asking them, how did your sister die? And in the dream they're saying to him, well, she died, she passed away. But he's saying to them, but are you sure? Do you have any proof that she just passed away like that? You need to have some proof also. How do you know that she really passed away in this manner? So when they woke up, they just had some doubts. Well, we just took his word. We should at least find out what was the cause. So they let us just dig up the grave and see what had happened, if there's any signs. So they dug up the grave, and they found that she'd been killed, and with it also was a child also. So they knew that something was now fishy. So they came up to the spear there, to the pious person, so-called pious person now, and they questioned him. Now he was cornered, so he admitted to it all. So when he admitted to it all, what they did is they tied his feet up, they blackened his face, and they dragged him right throughout the entire city, disgracing him. In this way, his hereafter was also destroyed. He destroyed his hereafter, and he also disgraced himself in this world. But if we go back to what was it that led to this outcome? It was just that one thought, that rather somebody else going and giving the food, I should go and give the food to her instead. Just that one thought itself led to what? An outcome, dear friends. On one occasion, a person got to meet shaitan. Sometimes it happens for lesson for us, not. This person met with shaitan. He introduced him, asked him, who are you? He said, shaitan. I don't have asked to meet him anyway. You don't want to have one-to-one with him. So when this person said he's shaitan, and this person became very angry, got hold of him, and all the FMBs and all the anger in him, he took it out, that you are this, you are that, and this is the amount of mischief you cause in the world, this is the amount of people you troubled, this is how much you've troubled me, and this and that. He took it really out on him. Shaitan said to him, hang on, after all, what have I done? You're blaming me for everything, but what is it that I've done? I haven't done anything at all. And he said, what do you mean? Then he said, come with me and I'll show you. Shaitan took him to a meat shop. And there in the meat shop, there was a platter in which the sweet meat was being prepared. When it's prepared, it is still obviously in liquid form, just the milk, etc., and then it becomes the sweet meat itself. So whilst it was still in the liquid form, Shaitan dipped his finger in it, and then he just wiped it on the wall. The flies are there. So flies now gathered on this small fingerprint of bit of sweet meat. Once the flies were there, there was a lizard in the shop that saw the flies, so the lizard quickly ran towards the flies. Once the lizard got there, there was a cat which was roaming around. When the cat saw the lizard, the cat then jumped for the lizard. When the cat jumped, there was a customer at the sweet shop who had a dog. When the dog saw the cat, obviously the dog jumped for the cat. Whilst it jumped for the cat, it spilled the whole platter of sweet meat on the floor. When the sweet meat fell, then the shopkeeper got angry and he started fighting with the customer, the owner of the dog. No, what he did, well, before that, he took his anger out on the dog. So the spoon that he had, he hit the dog with it, and he killed the dog. When the dog was, after he killed the dog, the customer obviously got upset, that what type of customer service is this? So the customer started fighting, arguing with him, due to which the shopkeeper brought 5 people from his side, and he brought 5 people from his side, after which they started fighting with each other, and then they brought another 10 people, and in this way, it so happened that 5 people from both sides were killed. 5 people from both sides were killed, and there were just dead bodies lying about. Shaitan then said to this person, tell me, did I even lift a finger on these dead bodies that are around? What did I do? After all this happened, Shaitan said, what did I do? Did I tell him to fight with him? Did I tell him to kill him? Did I tell him to call others, have a gang warfare there? I didn't do any of this at all. All I did is I just dipped my finger in the sweet meat and that was it. So this is how shaitan works, dear friends. It is just that initial thought, and then it is as we carry it out, and eventually this is the outcome. And the outcome, dear friends, is because we do not control ourselves from those initial thoughts. Now, in conclusion, how do we combat shaitan? One is, dear friends, as I mentioned, when the thought enters into the heart, immediately think of something else instead. The other, dear friends, is the person should make dua to Allah, as it comes in the hadith also. The person should seek refuge from shaitan and from the nafs, the mischief of the nafs. But a person should make dua to Allah that Allah Ta'ala give us the ability to combat the shaitan and the nafs. And the other is, dear friends, in the Quran Allah Ta'ala mentions that when shaitan was rejected, he said to Allah that I take an oath and give me the permission that I am going to mislead the people and also take them into the fire of Jahannam with me. Because he knew that he is now destined for the fire of Jahannam, so he doesn't want to go on his own. He's so generous. He doesn't want to take it on his own. He wants to take others with him. So he took a pledge of Allah that he's going to take with him whoever he can. But then shaitan himself, his own words, made an exception. He says, "Illa ibadika humul mukhlasin." Besides your servants who are chosen. That besides your chosen servants, the rest I shall mislead and take them into the fire of Jahannam. The chosen servants of Allah are those servants of Allah who we regard to be the pious people. They are those people whom Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala from His side has protected them to a great way, in which they then can combat shaitan, and they are the people who is regarded minhumul mukhlasin. The shaitan mentions that besides them, everybody else I shall mislead. Which means to us that we should also be amongst those people, the pious. If not, then we should also be in the company of those people who are protected from shaitan. That if we also should be in the company of the pious, and we will find the effects of being in the company of the salihin, protected from the mischief of the shaitan. Because when a person goes in the company of the pious, you find the effects of their company is that a person desires doing good. You don't find somebody comes to Quran Tafseer and then he has a desire to do evil. Rather, a person has a desire to do good, isn't it? So when you go into the company of the pious, in good gatherings, pious friends, you have the desire of doing good things. If you're going to the company of evil friends, then they'll take you to evil. If you're going to the company of good friends, then they'll take you towards good. So being in the company of pious is something that is very, very important. To that extent, the Hakim al-Matanwi rahimahullah mentions that being in the company of the pious is farz. Why? Because he says the protecting of iman is farz. So whatever helps in protecting iman is also farz to adopt, and being in the company of the pious helps towards protecting a person's iman, and this is also farz. So when a person is in the company of the pious, that will help a person against the onslaught and mischief of shaitan. And then I'll end off with one more incident, just one incident more. That is of Imam Razi rahimullah. Imam Razi rahimullah was a great mufassir, muhakkik, muhaddis of his time, a great scholar of his time. This Imam Razi rahimullah, the urge entered into his heart that he should also become married murid of a sheikh, enter into the allegiance of a sheikh, and go in the company of a sheikh. So he looked around, he couldn't find anybody. Eventually he found somebody very pious, and he went to him and requested him that, look, make my islah, make my tarbiyat, I've come for islah and tarbiyat. The sheikh at the time refused, knowing that the sheikh himself, Imam Razi, was a great scholar of his time, and then eventually he agreed, and he called him in at a specific time. When he came in, this sheikh started making special concentration on Imam Razi rahimahullah. Whilst he was doing this, whilst the bayat was taking place, Imam Razi rahimahullah felt that in his heart, the knowledge that he had learned was now leaving his heart. On which he became disturbed, and he said to his sheikh, what's happening here? The sheikh mentioned that whatever you've already got in your heart is going to be taken out, and new knowledge is going to be replaced with something different, new. But he felt that these are years and years of sacrifice and hardship and yearning. I've achieved this, I don't want it to leave me. So the sheikh insisted no, that he should remain, but he refused and he said no, he wants to go. So the Shaykh said to him, well, I can't force you to stay. Fair enough, go, but because you have links with me, maintain these links with me. So he said, okay. Imam Razi Rahimahullah went back to his teaching, his discourses and debating. He was a great debater with atheists. Atheism was on his rife during his days. And he had about 100 different logical answers, proofs that he would give to atheists. Whenever anyone would come to debate with him, on the third or fourth time he would already win the debate. Because he had already in his mind 100 different proofs for the existence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When Imam Razi Rahimullah was about to die during his final moments, Shaitan came to him. And Shaitan, dear friends, comes to a person on the deathbed. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect us all, but he does come to a person and he tries his utmost to spoil the death of a person. So he came to Imam Razi and he said to him, what is your proof that Allah exists? Just as the debaters in the world were asking, what's your proof? Shaitan asked him, what's your proof on Allah exists? Imam Razi mentioned to him the first proof, the logical proof. Shaitan answered that also. He mentioned the second. Shaitan answered that also. Third proof he gave, Shaitan answered that also. Fourth, fifth, it went on. In each answer that he was giving, proof that he was giving, Shaitan counteracted it. Eventually it came to 70, 80. Imam Razi started sweating and worrying. I've never reached this stage. And obviously if he comes to 99 and 100 and then I've got no proof and then I'll have doubts myself and I can't die in this manner. Now he's wondering what should he do. Eventually Shaitan brought him down to 99. He gave him his 99th proof. And after that he knew that he's got only got one left and after he's got no answer at all. Just then in that situation where he was worried what he should do, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala inspired his shaykh with what's happening to Imam Razi rahimahullah. His shaykh at the time was going to perform wuzu. It wasn't ilmul ghaib. It wasn't knowledge of the unseen. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala inspired to him in his heart that this is what is happening with Imam Razi. His shaykh immediately, the bucket, the lota that he had, earthen pot that he had, he threw that down. He spoke from wherever he was, saying that, O Razi, tell Shaitan that you believe Allah without any proof. He said to him, O Razi, why are you going into proofs for? Tell Shaitan you believe in Allah without any proof. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala inspired that to Imam Razi, and when he came to his last proof that he had, and Shaitan asked him, what is your proof? He said, I believe in Allah without any proof. Immediately Shaitan went away and he passed away peacefully. Because prior to that, he was proving everything by logical proofs, and that doesn't work with Shaitan. Shaitan is too clever for that. So the barakat of that link that he had with the pious was such that he was protected from Shaitan during his final moments. A great Imam of his time, but he was protected on those final moments. So the barakah of being in a company of this pious person, who then said to him, I'll tell Shaitan, and this is how we believe. We believe in Allah without any proof. We haven't seen Allah, neither have you seen Jannah, Jahannam, we haven't seen the Mizan, we haven't seen the hereafter, we haven't seen the Azab of the grave, we haven't seen Barzakh, we haven't seen the deeds, we haven't seen any of these things, but we still believe in Allah, dear friends, without any proof. That's where you find, at any time, Shaitan starts whispering doubts in your mind, then immediately forget, don't go into proving things. And at the same time, these doubts keep on entering into your heart, immediately go into the company of the pious, and that will help you, dear friends. On one occasion, there were two students studying in Aligarh University. They were friends, and what had happened is, the one friend, he had many doubts with regards to certain issues of Aqidah, Islam, etc. To that extent, it troubled him so much that he even left the fold of Islam. Another friend of his, who was a pious friend, it was during the month of Ramadan, came to him and look, I've prepared iftari, come let's go do iftari. So the friend said to him, well look, I have no fast at all because I'm not a Muslim anymore. So this friend said to him, look, okay, never mind. What we'll do is, in our holidays very soon, let's go and visit somebody. This person was Maulana Ganj Muradabadi Rahimullah, who's a great pious saint. And when we go there, then just mention to him whatever doubts you have. This person said, well, I've got a whole list of doubts in my mind, and nobody can answer it at all. They are so intriguing, so in depth, deep, that nobody can answer these at all. And they must have been for him to come out of the fold of Islam. But his friend said to him, no, never mind, let's just go there at least. When he agreed, they went there. They just sat there in the company of the pious, the Shaykh, for a short while. After a while, when the Shaykh was free, his friend said to him, well, now you've got a chance, ask him when he can see you, and mention to him all the doubts that you have. This friend said to him, whilst I was sitting there, in those few moments, each and every doubt that I had, the answer just came into my mind, and I don't need to ask him, I am now a Muslim, and he read the kalima again. Merely, by being in the company of the Shaykh, by being in the company of the pious, the work of shaitan didn't work, and all these answers just came into his mind without the Shaykh having to give him the answers. So this is minhumul mukhlisin. By being in the company of the pious, this will help a person against shaitan. So this is where Allah Ta'ala says, وَلَا تَتَّبِعُوا خُطُوَاتِ الشَّيْطَانِ Do not follow the footsteps of shaitan. إِنَّهُ لَكُمْ عَدُوٌّ مُبِينٌ Indeed, he is an open enemy. إِنَّمَا يَأْمُرْكُمْ بِالسُّوءِ He commands you with evil, وَفَحْشَاء and immorality, وَأَن تَقُولُوا اللَّهِ مَا لَا تَعْلَمُونَ And you say to Allah that which you do not know, meaning kufr and shirk, and many other things that are ascribed with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The remaining verses that were recited to you, we shall leave those for next week, inshallah. Shaitan, put in your mind, it gets too late also.